workable thing as a Jewish child to actually live with, then I don't think we can progress.
All right, moving on to our final topic for the night, and a group of New South Wales school parents is on a mission to get religion out of the classrooms of the state's public schools. They say Christian tutors, Islamic teachers and believing Buddhists who come into the schools to give children special religious instruction should be banished. Instead, personal religious instructions should be treated as an after-school elective. Michael, I'll have to start with you on that. The complaint of this group of parents is that having these people in the classrooms breaches the department's controversial issues in schools policy, that perhaps a little Methodist old lady is trying to recruit students into a partisan group. Guilty or not guilty?
It's terrible and not guilty, and it doesn't contravene that policy whatsoever. It never has. The government has said that it doesn't. The controversial issues is for another context altogether, and that's quite clearly distingued in the
So they're not proselytising, they're not evangelising.
They're not proselytising, it's education. It's called special religious education, and what they do is they educate those whose parents have chosen for them to attend that particular class.
The other argument is that somehow these tutors aren't regulated by the Education Department, and therefore the department fails in their duty of care. They don't look after the people, and they don't look after the kids and investigate who these people are, and they don't interrogate what it is they're teaching the children. Is that true?
That's not quite true, no. So there's a couple of things. One is that the religious education providers do negotiate and are open with their materials, and have gone through a process recently of having their material reviewed, and they do change their material.
By the Education Department.
Well, in Queensland in particular, there was a report on some material produced by a group called Connect. It came back, it said, we'd like you to change a few things. For instance, please don't offer kids lollies in class. It was that kind of level of change, and the providers are open to that kind of conversation with governments. They carefully train and scrutinise their own staff, those people who are going to be teaching in those schools. And it's very, very popular. You've got to remember, this is about the freedom of choice for parents, and this group is trying to take away, if you're a parent, as I am in a government school, you need to be aware that this group is trying to take away the choice that you now have to have your child go to a special religious education class.
Catherine Murphy, what's your view?
Oh, I have feelings. Do you want me to share them?
Sure.
Okay. As a product of Catholic education and as a parent with kids in state schools, I'm very strongly of the view that religious education belongs in religious schools, and that state schools should not have religious education. A lot of parents make a decision to send their kids to state schools to avoid the religious education of religious schools, and vice versa. A lot of parents make a decision to send their kids to religious schools because they want religious education.
But your kids could sit out.
Sure. I realise it's an opt-in situation, and I said at the top of this situation, these are my feelings. So sorry to inflict them on the viewers, but I know it's opt-in. I'm not sure this program exists in the ACT. I don't think my kids in ACT schools went or were given an option of religious education. I don't think they were. Anyway, however, that's my feelings. I think that the two should be separate, and I wouldn't necessarily, sort of run a major national campaign and stamp my foot and hoist a flag up about it, but they're my feelings.
Josh, what's your view? I mean, the suggestion is if you banned a religious instruction like this, the State Education Department could write a curriculum on major religions. I mean, that'd be fascinating to see. How would you present Islam? How would you present Judaism? And surely that's a recipe for a pretty difficult discussion with community.
Indeed. First, I have to make my own disclosure about my feelings.
Yes.
I come from a long line of Jewish atheists, secular Jews, so we just have to get that out now. But having come from that different background, I entirely agree with Catherine. The only caveat I put to that, and what Catherine said would be entirely uncontroversial in France. France has a very strict view about separating the church and the state.
And that's not an issue of principle. That is a point of why is that principle important, if you like?
Simply because I don't think the state should be involved in providing education about a particular religion, and if people want to pursue their own religious interests, there's plenty of opportunity to do that. But having said that, I like the idea of learning, of people at least understanding and being taught about comparative religions.
Michael?
The thing is, I think the Australian cultural way of doing this is not the French way. We have a negotiated pluralism. It's not about inflicting one religion, it's about inviting all religions, including, you can have in New South Wales, you can have an ethics class which is free of religion.
Would it be such a terrible thing to do this after school hours, nearly out of time?
Well, the agreement at the moment is in class hours. The trouble is the after school class hours, it means that the kids go home, you don't have the buy-in. It's a lost opportunity for a great chance to have religious education in school hours.
All right, that was a fascinating last topic. Thank you all very much for sharing your feelings with us all, our panellists Michael Jensen, Josh Bornstein and Catherine Murphy, and my thanks also to the Chief Executive of the Grattan Institute, John Daly, who joined us for our first conversation. Thanks for joining us. See you again tomorrow.